a lot of heavy hitters coming off the board, but I still see Rise floating around, Xin Zhao still floating around up here. There's still a lot of premier picks that IG can go with if they want to on this R1 pick, the first pick of the draft.
Malphite as well could be a possibility, though Sylas unbanned does mean that counter is available, so IG just slamming that immediately, I think probably not the wisest choice in the world. More than likely, you'll probably see something like that Xin Zhao, like that Pantheon, maybe that Wukong. Yeah, Varus as well could be something to give over to Photic. I think that he has been a player who has really struggled in this split simply because without resources, without like a double kill falling into his lap, I think that his impact off of champions that are more than just click R characters like Misfortune has been really invisible so far. He's been a victim of the invisible gaming, if you will. So we'll have to see what they give him, but for now, it's just going to be the Nico lock-in here for Jwei, who...
I like it.
Interested to see how he does on this. I think that he has been full commit on a lot of these supports that he's played, very engage heavy, and while Nico can engage, she's very squishy. So if Jwei mistimes these engages, it could be very deadly for Invictus.
It does fit the, keys to success we kind of talked about for drafts. Getting Jwei, this Nico is very integral. And Photic, while I do think he's deserved a lot of criticism for how he's played on a lot of these champions, I do think some of his best games we've seen this year have come onto this Corki. Also fits perfectly into into this Nico combination. So a lot of huge bursts is going to come out from this IG bottom lane. Also kind of negates some of the power of the Crescent Guard, right? Corki, once he gets in there with the Valkyrie, he will likely be inside the range of the invulnerability to make sure that no damage can really be blocked over. And wow, okay. So Wei throws down the Vi here. Yeah, we are going full on pick fight comp here for IG. They're looking to scrap early and often with this draft so far.
And it looks right now with this comp that they're really trying to bully out Starry, who I think has been a really big star player of OMG, not even just throughout the series that we saw them play last night, but also just throughout the split. I think a lot of people have been impressed by what Starry is able to do when he gets resources, and I think OMG understanding how dive heavy and engage heavy and punishing this Invictus comp are, where you've got the Corki and being able to bully him in lane, but then also the Vi cease and desist and the Nico damage that'll more than likely push in this Varus. You need a little bit of disengage. So on top of having that Crescent Guard for the Xin Zhao, you also have the Headbutt from the Alistar. Just a lot of tools to create that space and give Varus the ability to free hit in a lot of these fights. But I think one thing OMG are really lacking is that innate magic damage dealer and also just a go button. They have a good amount of disengage, but I think except for the Alistar, you don't have a premier fight pick tool, and you certainly don't want Starry walking up to be the Chains of Corruption guy that starts a fight because he's going to be the main target.
That's a good point, but with how we've seen Rio play, I don't really know if I don't know if there's a champion this guy doesn't want to look at as an engaged champion. And, if you want to feel pretty audacious on the Xin Zhao, we'll have to see what Rio does on this very powerful jungler. We'll focus in on these bans, though, coming through so far. Looks like Haichao is going to be the target of IG's ban phase to get rid of his Akali. I like them getting rid of, bursty mid laners that can kind of play into this pretty heavy mid-game spiking OMG composition. We'll see what sort of mid laners will fit that innate magic damage dealer that you'd like to see Haichao get his hands on, because we already, Orianna, Rise, Akali, like those are three pretty heavy hitters for most mid laners, especially Haichao, to get taken away from him.
Even the Sylas, I think, has been really good from Haichao so far if he wants to get a bit more scrappy in the laning phase. But I agree with you. I think that IG targeting a lot of these bursty mid laners is the right call. OMG on the other side, though, taking away the Renekton and the Jax, just not only a lot of good side lane threat from these champions, but also the flank potential that they can get is something to watch out for. If a good TP comes down, it could be really, really dire. Yeah, the LeBlanc ban going to be last.
Rookie's team is banning LeBlanc away from Haichao. What world am I living in right now? Is this real? I mean, Haichao did play a mean LeBlanc game, and you mentioned it. Rookie played an inting LeBlanc game, so that's just where we are right in the LPL.
Yeah, and OMG immediately going for that Ambessa, so Hery is going to snag that one up. I do think that Ambessa is a champion that has a good amount of counters to it, so I wouldn't be surprised if Soboro just decides to insta-lock in a tank, especially if IG decide to be the guys throwing down that Sylas, because, yeah, enemy has the Alistar, one of the S+ Z tier ultimates to steal and does give him a lot of agency and longevity in those fights to get multiple spell rotations off. So IG, on top of the engage that they have from things like the Vi, they also have a really strong mid-game solo lane spike with that Gwen. So yeah, OMG, I think the big thing is unlocking that Xin Zhao early and making those plays with Rio.
I really like this, though. You see Sylas, Gwen, you have a Nico. I'm a fan of this. We've seen a lot of teams like you play the Galio game with Avaris, and I did a LNG game with K-Man where they did negative damage. This is a lot better because you have that Mbessa top, like you talked about how much powerful of a duelist this is. So OMG definitely have a cap on how much damage they're going to bring to this game, but I don't know, Quax, the value of a Galio against basically 2.5 magic damage dealers feels pretty high for Haichao.
Not only is it against 2.5 magic damage dealers, like you're rightfully pointing out, Slayer, but it's also paired up with a Xin Zhao. Rio, like we said, a lot of that youthfulness is invading, looking for aggressive plays, and when you're able to have a Galio ultimate in your back pocket ready to assist you in those endeavors, I think that it gives you an extra bit of safety whenever you decide to look for those kinds of plays. So it just backs up Rio's style that we've seen from him so far, and the style that has allowed OMG to win so many series since they subbed this guy in. He has been OMG talent through and through, scouted basically a year ago, and after only 1 year of being on their academy team, now he is on the main roster, and he's been allowing them to be on that grind, to shine through, and maybe he'll be the guy to get them into Ascend. It would be absolutely massive for, I think, every single member on this team to face up against that higher competition.
Well, we're getting set to go on to the Rift to start out our competition tonight here, Quax, but as we have a bit of time, this is the usual pan they do before they go into game. All right, here we go. So we'll head to the Rift here. I'll ask you that question once we get online. OMG IG best of 5 for the stakes. They could not be higher. Let's head to the Rift. I was expecting to hear some Jaios.
Yeah, especially it's IG. Come on.
Yeah, maybe they'll come alive as the series goes along here, as we do get the minions already crashing in here, and both of our junglers starting on the same side, gonna path bot to top. So we'll see how much IG's bottom lane can get done with this alone. The fact that you have the Nico into this Alistar should be Photic and Jwei finding some comfortability in these first couple of waves.
Yeah, I think we're going to be expecting them, especially with the Nico, to probably be the aggressors in the 2v2, simply because Alistar, especially at level 1, isn't really a character. I mean, the headbutt pulverize really is when you can actually start to have some threat, but until then, you're just a cow. Can't milk those.
A classic line nonetheless, as our mid laners are definitely looking to find some aggressive trades early. Though I do feel like Rookie on this Sylas, Quax, you talked about a lot how this Sylas has been a big pick for Haichao, and he definitely understands this matchup more than most, maybe not more than Rookie nonetheless, but Rookie into a melee matchup, mid lane on Sylas is always, heaven, even if it is going to be a magic resist sort of base champion that will kind of slow down the impact that Sylas can have. We'll have to see, though. Rookie has got some decent HP trades in early, and he does have his jungler nearby. He does get Skog of Duck. Taunt is going to come down here for Haichao, throws his whole combo through, and both mid laners find themselves pretty battered and bruised. But it's the wave stake that Rookie wants to have control of. And this is a good start to see after we saw IG against NIP kind of lose out across the board in a lot of their early games. So far against OMG, they've been able to find positive mid trades. Photic and Jwei have now taken a plate off of this first bot lane tier 1 turret. And it's already amassed them a couple hundred gold lead early, which should keep them on the right track.
Yeah, good start coming out here in the bot lane. And I do think that it is just mainly trying to get Photic ahead. We talk about the effects of this guy when he is actually able to get some gold. So IG, like you said, off to a hot start.
See, usually it's the bot scuttle that we see all the fighting over early, but Rio is gonna wrestle for control for the top scuttle. Both mid laners sort of roaming on over, but it's Haichao that has first step and will make sure that Rio can secure this bot scuttle. It's going to slow down Ways Clear a bit more here, but he will be able to secure one crab each between our two junglers. Does give the ever fly high Rio. A bit of a quicker reset to get back out on the map here. And we'll see where he decides to go. I see him sprinting towards his bot camps, which he'll have up first, but both bottom lanes are looking to take the resets with the wave in a pretty decent spot here for Photic. So shouldn't be much really manifesting early here, but don't think that'll last too long. Based on the fact that we have a Xin Zhao and a Vi. I mean, these are two junglers Quax that will look to scrap pre-level 6 if they find the right angles.
Way more than likely, though, probably just going to try and power farm as much as possible. That's really when you get the threat and can start looking for these picks onto Starry. That'll be even further push forward if Jwei can get that early ult. Yeah, Haichao with the schmoves a little bit on the Jwei roam. But I do think that this is a game where the longer it goes and the less action that there is to be had in the inaugural minutes, the better it is for IG, because I'm looking at the Gwen, I'm looking at the Sylas, and I'm thinking, all right, once you guys get some items, you can absolutely deal some damage. So it's really going to be on OMG to start up some of these fights. And so far, Rio hasn't really had those opportunities.
Has not really gotten any way in so far, but you called it out on the pre-show. We saw it all the last time we got OMG. He does not care about where he is fighting. He looks for the fight. But luckily, Jwei there to cover. Rio does not have that chance for that first invade of the game. Quax that you talk about is just Rio's style. And maybe, it seemed like Jwei might actually go for that exact thing you're pointing out, invade the invader. But no, nothing will really manifest on that side, as we do see Moham look for a bit of a errand engage. He comes out a bit worse for wear, but still just trades across the board. There's really no kill threat anywhere on this map just yet. And it still has IG up about 500,000 gold.
Really good trade there, particularly from Haichao in the counter matchup with the Sylas. This is what we're kind of expecting to happen, and I do wonder how the priority is going to be dictated around this game. I feel like it's only going to get worse for Rookie. He's more than likely just going to be pushed under his tower the more and more that time goes on, especially if Haichao has things like the Dark Seal to give him that little bump in magic damage. Just means that pushing those waves with the passive plus the Q is going to be that much easier, and trading against the Galio as a Sylas is going to be that much harder, thus meaning that Rookie might not have as much agency as he would hope on a scrap-heavy champion like Sylas.
Looks like picture we're showing that Hery went for public execution, but Gwen is immune. So does not end up landing anything. Is Rio will show on this bot side. Jwei, though, got access to that bot scuttle first. So, yeah, I'm glad to see Rio backing out here, recognizing that Jwei has that very critical ultimate advantage and will not look for any aggressive fight. And with his bottom lane holding the wave in a decent spot, will not cost OMG too much, Quax, but I guess kind of to bring up the panic meter early, if you're OMG, you know, losing 500,000 gold with no kills off the board, how worrying is it? I guess, do you want to give this team more time for those ultimates to come online before we worry about how slow this game is? I guess they're back up to even. Gold leads are fake this early.
Play gold OP, but I really feel like OMG, the big timer that I'm looking at is once these grubs spawn. Dragon wasn't started up by either of these teams, but I do think that when you're this econ heavy, OMG are really going to start prioritizing that top side objective, just because if Hery is able to get push against Soboro like he has been, and if we're predicting that Haichao is going to keep push against Rookie like he has been, then I think getting that extra little bit of bump in economy is going to mean a lot. So if they can posture around this objective, I think it's a good thing for them to maybe get something started on the map, because it has been a very quiet first 7.5 minutes or so, as we already see that Rio really wants to start looking for something. God, it's really tripping me up
so
that
hungry.
It's really tripping me up that Rio, his first initial is lowercase, and there's no space between the team acronym and the player name. It makes it look like his name is Grio.
OM Grio.
Yeah.
You know what? I didn't notice that until you pointed it out. But hey, now that you pointed it out, it's actually, I mean.
Oh God, did I ruin this for you? Oh,
well,
no.
I mean, like, there's a lot of, you know, there's like Haichao's H is lowercase as well. So like, I don't know. Point for another moment, though, is Jwei has found a very unique flank angle to look for Starry. There's public execution. The Pop Blossom onto 2 also comes out, but Jwei went far too deep under turret. He had to flash away, eats the Chains of Corruption, and Starry gets a really positive trade there onto Jwei. So they get rid of Starry's flash, but boy, did it come at a cost here for IG.
Yeah, I think that was a really good flash there from Starry. He extends the ultimate from Jwei, and as well as that, Moham also kind of bodyguards Photic and Jwei from being able to join up with the Vi. So it really is just a 1v1. Jwei, after he, blows his entire combo, isn't really able to deliver much of the damage. The Vi really just looked at to be CC for Photic and Jwei to finish off the last remaining bit of health that Starry had, but they're not going to be able to do so because the Alistar...
Moham has caught Photic, and now he has to flash over the fat wall, but that is not the right side of the map. Maybe some pretty smart play here from Photic. He does separate Starry and Moham enough to find the trade back, but that's now flash off of Jwei, Photic, and Jwei, with the first dragon just now getting traded out.
It's a good trade here from IG, a little bit late, and I feel like had Moham and Starry protected their conditions a little bit, they actually could have maybe fought for that, because Rookie already stole Haichao's ultimate earlier and used it, so I think that's still on cooldown. Not having that hero's entrance as the Silas does make it really difficult for you to join into these fights without taking mass amounts of damage and getting locked down, but conditions were good there for IG. They took the dragon, and yeah, it's like you said, objectives traded, and so far, no harm, no foul, still no kills to be had on the board, which, again, I'm still going to say favors IG. That might change here.
All right, yeah, Rio's going to flash a meal on Soboro, force a flash out of him, and the needlework, which will get him enough space there. We're finally starting to see this game pick up a bit of pace. It does give us time, Quax, to take stock of that early objective trade like you talked about. It's IG playing the long con game with the dragon stacking, but I'm curious how much impact you feel the grubs for OMG is here, because innately, I don't know how much it really has for them, but I do really enjoy denying it from a Gwen for future problems if you're OMG.
Oh yeah, it's a really effective denial, especially against some of these scaling champions that IG have, but I do think it'll be good for Hery to get those 3 items. I've always said that I think the biggest difference between an early game and late game Ambessa isn't the damage that she's capable of pumping out, it's how tanky she can be and how durable she is in a lot of those fights. How many times, Slayer, have you seen how many times have you seen the story of Ambessa goes in 1v4 and comes out somehow with more HP than she left because she's got, the Sundered Sky, the Death's Dance, and all of these items that just make her so difficult to kill. So if Hery can get gold off of those grubs, he can turn into a raid boss and really be that main engage that we're looking at.
It's funny, you described Ambessa as a 1v, comes into a 1v4, comes out with more HP. I'd say Gwen could be the same way there.
Yeah.
Advantage here for OMG, by the way, is Rio and Jwei are both sitting in the same sort of mirrored brushes, but Rio knows the Jwei's there. IG don't know the Rios here. So you can see Hery stepping up really aggressively. Jwei, though, I like this. He realizes, wait, why is this Ambessa walking right up to me with no cover? Rio has to be here, and Jwei does not take the bait into a 2v2.
Yup, he sniffs something out, he's going to leave, and yeah, frankly, if it's a 2v2 right there, OMG win no contest. It's a Caulfield's Warhammer diff for Rio, who now also completes his item off of that back, so it means the Xin will be extra strong. And Ambessa is just a better duelist than Gwen in the early game, so very smart of Jwei not to take the bait and ends up exfiltrating that fight. But now you can see Rio off respawn, immediately pinging to make a play on the map.
It's Moham is going to get caught a bit far forward. Jwei looks for the engage. There's Rio to cover once again. Gets the 3-town strike knock up. Rookie's going to steal away the Unbreakable Will. He definitely wants to scrap this far forward. And Jwei's going to come in with a double Pop Blossom to pick up first blood before the Hero Israels can come down. Starry does find a good piercing arrow through, but look how tanky Rookie is with that stolen Alistar ultimate. He does have to flash the piercing arrow as OMG find a way to trade. Both junglers drop, but IG are the ones to claim first blood. And Photic may be looking for more here. Jwei is looking like Jwei's really low health bar, but that'll fizzle everything out, and we start with as even of a trade as we can get in the kill count.
And even though it's Moham, of all people, managing to pick up that return kill for OMG, they're the ones that walk away with the gold lead. You can see now something is finally materializing for them in that deficit. So they have created something for themselves, and they also burned a good amount of summoners in that fight, particularly Rookie needing to burn that flash means that he will be a melee champion against this comp with no F. He'll be a very easy target for OMG to potentially focus down if there is in fact going to be a scrap around this Drake and some contestment by both teams. Well,
here we go, Rio looking for those invade angles. should be able to take away the blue buff here. He has Moham covering, but he's going to have to definitely smite this one. He doesn't have smite up just yet. His Jwei's going to come on over, and Rio is going to have to back off this blue buff. No, he gets the Wind Becomes Lightning into the smite and will steal away that coveted buff. So it wasn't as action-packed or mistake-prone as a lot of these Rio engages look, but we got him stealing away at camp, and that's what we were expecting.
Yeah, that is the big thing to look out for. Like we said, Jwei is definitely the stiffest of competition that I think Rio has had to face so far since he was subbed in for this team. It means that if Rio makes these mistakes that we've been seeing from him, particularly in the early game of going for over-aggressive picks and plays, he could be punished heavily by Jwei, as now speaking of being punished.
Jwei, a lot of CC lock. It's the hijacked heroic entrance there from Rookie. So they do get that ultimate off the board here. Rio looks for a re-engage on the Rookie himself. The Tangle Barbs are going to slow him down, but he backs both IG members away from this bottom river. And that's kind of a big win for OMG there, Quax, because this hijack won't be back around as the second Drake hits the rift.
And now Jwei on the recall does mean that OMG, at least in the bot lane 1v2, are going to look for a dive, actually.
Oh, there we go. Flash fall from Moham. The cleanse comes out. Photic doing a really good job dipping and dodging away from a lot of this.
God.
And despite the unbreakable will, OMG's dive falls flat. Starry has to flash away for Dre's Pop Blossom. Photic kills off Moham thanks to the minions. What an outplay there from Photic to turn a 2v1 dive into a kill of his own.
And now they've completely compromised their ability to look for this objective. Their conditions are bad. Rookie is actually going to spot the invade. OMG don't have a numbers advantage going into this fight. This is super risky for them to take Slayer.
Yeah, this is big because IG can really establish themselves as a continuous dragon stacking threat. Now they should be able to pick up this Infernal Drake on their own, but Rio is never one to give up things with ease, as him and Haichao will work their way back into the pit here. And Jwei actually, without positioning, gives up on this dragon. They've got all the vision towards this side of the map, but Jwei is sprinting towards the top side. He's looking to trade the Herald to go even on a Drake apiece.
I think that IG just weren't snappy enough to start up the objective, because the moment Moham respawns, that numbers advantage fizzles out. Not to mention, like we said earlier, Rookie doesn't have that flash, and also because he used that hijacked hero's entrance, that's also still on cooldown. So it's really hard for the Silas to be able to join up in the fight. Jwei also doesn't have Pop Blossom, so they blew their conditions. They aren't able to contest that objective. OMG are going to tie the Drake score up. IG get a trade with the Herald, and they might be able to transition it into something of a dive on this top side.
We've got Jwei up here alongside Jwei. Moham has made the roam up as well. So we're starting to get the lane, starting to swap a bit as we dropped all of our quests off. So both AD carries move into the mid lane, and our mid laners move down bot side to try and set up better for these future objectives. But that's going to be for a while. We're going to enter a bit of a lull period. 4.5 minutes till next Dragon. Baron, even when it does spawn in about 340, won't really be contested by both. So now the side lane pressure is really going to take center stage. As on time, Rookie spots out Rio, looking for a bot lane escapade, which will force his recall out.
And I do have to point it out, Rookie going for the Mercury Crushers. Brother, what magic damage?
I guess CC, right? I guess trying to get out of the top, the Chains of Corruption, the stuns earlier. But yeah, that's definitely an intriguing thing.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I feel like, especially because you have access to the Alistar ultimate, it kind of circumvents the need to go for those Mercury Crushers. But hey, who am I to judge? So it's Mercury Crushers. We have to deal with it. Big thing, though, is that Rookie obviously has had that Roa for a while. Is going to start stacking that, so it means Silas will be stronger and stronger as this game goes on. Most of the champions on IG, particularly these early game threads, have hit their first item breakpoints. But it really is going to be about those 3 items, particularly for Soboro, who has had a very quiet game, which I think is good for Gwen. You can see he has that Rift Maker and is very close to getting that Dusk and Dawn, so that'll be a big point for him to maybe start looking for some of these more aggro plays and start looking to actually fight back in a side lane.
Speaking even further on those items, I do want to get your take on Haichao's build, because I do think, we talked about how the value of the Galio is blocking out or stacking the MR, but we've seen a lot of Galios go damage, hybrid. Haichao looking to just be the super utility, it feels like, with this build.
There's no true tank on IG, so I actually don't mind it, because you're not going to be punished heavily for going a little bit AD heavy. And I do think that generally none of these champions love to immediately go for armor. So I think it's actually fine that Haichao is saying, you know what, I don't need to be a magic damage threat because there's no tank. Nobody's going to be really building against me if I do that. So it won't matter. Instead, just opting to be a frontliner. And I think that's the correct play. It gives Starry a lot more room to be able to fight in these choke points. Speaking of fighting...
We have a collapse here. Public Execution is going to grab Rookie, immediate engage. He hijacks the Crescent Guard, gets OMG off of him, over the wall. Doesn't cost IG too much. That hijack will be back around, but OMG are making it a point to attack this Silas every chance they get.
And now you can also see that Hery is on the top side. That top lane turret is getting very low, and a reset from Soboro means that Ambessa's probably going to get this, so more space will be opened up for OMG. It's not a kill, but they get more of Summoner's Rift to themselves, and I feel like when you've got things like a Galio who can really reinforce that extra space being given over, it is a dangerous thing for IG to be able to walk up knowing that Haichao could just be in a corner ready to enter heroic.
Yeah, that's a great point to make here, Quax, because we are obviously in a meta where there's a lot of, semi-global ultimates, especially out of the jungle. We put Pantheons, we put Nocturne, so map presence is a big point. And with those grubs in tow, OMG getting the first turret, they have more access to the map compared to IG. Great for you to point out the fact that OMG have a little bit of a lifeline if they ever find themselves mispositioned and down a number. Haichao has the ability to rejoin, where IG can't really force that without some sort of teleport. We'll see how that plays into the rest of this game as things continue to move forward, because right now, it does feel like OMG have a really big focal point in Hery. Not a lot of people can match him 1-for-1 and have any kill threat.
Yeah, this is when Ambessa starts to really turn up the heat as a legitimate threat, especially if you can get into your backline. But talking a little bit more about the space making, as we are 30 seconds away from this next dragon, and IG probably want to reclaim more of their territory, and they're going to do that by going on to Moham, actually.
Big win for Rookie there to secure that unbreakable will, as Jwei is going to further chase off Moham. So IG, right now, they not only just take up the space around this Drake pit, but outside of that one ward, Quax, this is a dark, dark part of the map for OMG.
Oh god, they're going on to Hery. If he survives this, it's huge, by the way.
Ballbreaker lands. Public Execution not being used now. There's a cease and desist. He gets down to about half HP. Hery does have teleport, though, so can rejoin very quickly if he can get this reset off now.
Really late Herald charge coming out here for the Vi. Doesn't really provide a lot of space. You know that OMG, if they want to fight you, they'll look for that. I think the big thing, though, is obviously Hery forced down to half. Now he's going to have to TP in, and he will. They're going for it, but they're really late here, Slayer.
Oh, Rookie gets a full max range of Scond of Duck. Doesn't really want it. Real's going to re-engage over the Crescent Guard. Jwei is going to secure the Dragon on the backside as Moham is a bit too far forward. Haichao going to TP in, so is Soboro. Get all the members in. Jwei's going to look for a two-man pop blast, but where's the follow-up from IG? The taunt lands, and Jwei gets blown up. Rookie trades support for support. Here's the real hero's interest down from Haichao, trying to hold Soboro in place, but Rookie and Soboro are doing the heavy lifting right now for IG, and they've set their sights forward onto Haichao, cutting him down and forcing Starry and Hery away from the fight. It's bloody, but our first battle is Invictus Gaming edging out early.
And finally, we cut the red tape. Finally, we get a fight in this game. 20 minutes of patience, and it pays off for IG as Soboro and Rookie tear OMG asunder in this exchange. And a big thing that I do want to point out was just the engage from Moham. This was looking like a really solid start to the fight for the Alistar. But then the re-engage from Jwei. On top of that, Soboro becomes basically untouched. This Gwen is allowed to free hit the entire time. And we talked about it. Soboro was a big threat that you had to try and shut down early, that you had to try and at least put behind a little bit, because you knew that once the mid to late game rolled around, she would be able to take care of your frontline threats, and that's exactly what she did. OMG, they reap what they sow. And Gwen is going to have to sew them a lot of bandages from that fight.
Talked so much about how this game felt like there were going to be a lot of action early, a lot of mid-game skirmishing, but as you alluded to, Quax, the more patient passing of time in this game one has gotten really good value for both of these top laners. And what a fun matchup that'll be to see who can really carry some of these fights. Soboro getting that edge in that last one, but we are still very neck and neck in the gold, and if you've been missing OMG games, they don't really care how much they're down gold. They will always still try and fight back a win, if you saw in that series against EDG.
Yeah, OMG gonna keep looking for these picks and plays, but IG are actually the ones doing that right now. Hery is walking up to this wave, but Jwei and Jwei are right behind Soboro, and he's actually going in. He doesn't know.
Oh boy, Hery, I don't know how he gets out of this one. Public Excuse is going to whiff and seeks an assist into the Pop Blossom as a double knockup combo. Jwei picks up that kill, and IG starting to really get their gold lead running as they find a side lane pick play.
And Rio has to run. He can't even defend this tower, so it's going to be more gold given over to Soboro. Jwei is actually looking for maybe some kind of a play. Doesn't have ultimate, so won't be able to get that CC train rolling onto the Xin Zhao. Just a little bit of a message, per se, sent over to Rio as scrapping in the bot lane between mid laners, but Haichao is really tanky. I don't think anything's actually going to come of this.
Hold on. Bottom lane's finding engages. That's Jwei eating a Chain Disruption, full piercing arrow combo from Starry. Photic swinging over, but he's got to be careful, or does he? He's feeling pretty comfortable with the Gatling gun going, so just a bit of training going across once again. No real kill threat. But this is the part of the game where Starry's definitely going to start hitting like a truck. Quax with that Moham already completed. Rio, the advanced blast code, he goes right onto Photic's head, but I don't think the rest of OMG were on the same page.
Yeah, Rio, I love that he's looking for aggressive angles, but it just doesn't seem like the rest of the team has his back most of the time, especially with Haichao being in a side lane. It's really hard to get that immediate response from the rest of your team. So it isn't risky that time. It doesn't actually cost you anything to, you know, bandy around a little bit with Photic, but it could be something if you aren't careful around these team fights, as the team fight will be looming in about a minute or so. We can see that dragon coming up in about 60 seconds. IG, if they get this, it will be on Soul Point. And looking across the board, I think a lot of these flashes for OMG will be up by that time, but a cleanse from Moham definitely won't be up, as he has to use that.
Yep, the spellbook is in a nice spot. But as we get closer to this dragon, Quax, I do want to ask you, is there any like big break points that you feel like we're at for either one of these sides that could have a huge impact on this fight? Because it does feel like our biggest maybe game-deciding moment will be this fourth Drake.
It very well could be. I mean, look at the top side of IG specifically. I mean, we have a 2-item Gwen, we have a fully stacked Roa, Silas, and Jwei as well is starting to get really, really tanky with that Black Cleaver as well. Means that if he can be in these prolonged fights, the frontliners of OMG, not only are they going to have to deal with the armor shred, but also the magic resist shred of that Gwen. So it really means that these tanks are going to be cut down for size. And OMG, I think in a straight 5v5, it's just not going to work for them. Now that the dragon is spawning, they haven't really set up for any kind of a pick. They'll be walking into this with most likely even numbers, and I do think that IG are heavily favored in that regard.
Well, it definitely bumps up your favoritism towards IG that we see Rookie steal away the Unbreakable Will. That's a big mark to get. Now he's in a huge flank position, but it's OMG. They're going to go after Photic. Rio trying to lead the charge. Flashes get the fight. Three-pronged knock-up. Rookie gets booted out of the back of the fight as Hery goes flying after Photic. Can he find this kill? It's a fight on two fronts. Photic will not get out as the Whippy Comes Lightning finds that kill. Both AD carries traded out, and now we're really going to start stacking on top of each other like Jenga. It's all melees. Here comes Haichao flying on in. Hery, though, is going to be able to get the coverage. IG have to back out. Now look for the re-engage coming right against Haichao, who gets a three-man taunt. And OMG are running for the hills here. They'll get everybody else out and give IG control around that Drake pit once again as Rookie continues to look to push the tempo. But OMG might look for a return here. Rio's going to engage first. Hery coming on over. Rookie feels real tanky with the Crescent Guard, and he's going to take down Rio. Hery has no way into this fight. Moham isn't going to heck flash over the wall, and IG steal away another kill to build their gold lead.
I think Moham was barely out of range of a headbutt pulverized combo. You could see that Rio was really trying to bait Rookie in to fight him because the Alistar was over the wall, but he had to have been out of range because he isn't able to do anything. He doesn't go in, and it just ends up Rio dead. IG going to be able to get themselves Soul Point. Now Soboro, the main target.
Shades of Corruption down. Needlework's not going to hit. Haichao, big piercing arrow from Starry, and the E on the Varus will find it. Soboro caught on the mid lane wave, but at least he distract OMG long enough for Jwei and IG to secure Chemtech Soul Point.
IG, it's going to be absolutely massive to get a Chemtech Soul because there is a lot of upfront damage and punishing abilities here from particularly that top side Rookie now.
That was a hilarious interaction. Oh, it might actually lead to a kill here. Moham caught.
You can't
Looking
headbutt
for the
them all,
slow,
bro.
saw him duck. There we go. And they have Moham locked down, forcing the Unbreakable Will out. He's trying to run away desperately. Wade does not want to use this Vi ultimate to find this kill and won't need it. It's all Rookie doing the heavy lifting, trying to reestablish himself as a mid laner. Too good to be in this kind of matchup.
Yeah, Rookie definitely understands the stakes of this series. He does not want to go to Nirvana, and he's playing like how we were hoping he would all throughout the season. But hey, I always say it, better late than never. Rookie looking good here in the first game of this best of 5, and OMG really just feel like they're grasping at straws at this point. We're 30 minutes into the game practically here, Slayer. The late game power spikes are starting to come through here for the Gwen, for the Silas, and OMG don't really have a response. Hery hasn't been built up to. Starry is a lethality champion, and I feel like those really spike around the mid game, and we're starting to get past that point here.
Totally.
And overall, it feels like their time in the sun is starting to set. IG, though, are blazing through this game.
What will really push this thing over the edge will, of course, be a dance with Baron. We've still got 3+ minutes until a Chemtech Soul Drake will even spawn on the map. And IG are trying to play the map to the best of their abilities here with how strong, as you mentioned, Soboro feels into anyone he finds in this side lane. He's got a push going on to that tier 2 turret on the bot side with TP coming up soon. So IG are looking to kind of spread the map, catch OMG rotating incorrectly, and pouncing on this big purple ward.
Trying to bait them. You can see that one ward is going to be spotted out by Jwei, so no surprises here for IG on the top side. Rio, once again, looking for a pick, but look at where his teammates are. They're nowhere to be found. You really don't have backup if even these IG members do step up and misposition themselves. So I just feel like it goes to show that OMG, all of their efforts to look to these picks are in vain, but that's not going to stop them from trying.
They're going after Rookie. He's half HP when he hijacks the Unbreakable Will. Haichao's going to get a good taunt, but look how tanky Rookie is. Now he finally goes into the stasis. He's bought so much time. OMG threw everything but the kitchen sink to kill off Rookie there, and he walks out at the same HP that Rio is.
I have Jwei is also on the side here. The wave is, you know, a little too cleared a little too fast, so IG aren't really going to be able to look for a pick. But yeah, just highlighting the difficulties of actually looking onto Rookie. I mean, this guy is a 700 gold bounty and is 1.1k up over Haichao. It's so difficult to kill him because not only is he going to have that Unbreakable Will and access to the Alistar ultimate, but he's also going to have the Nico, he's going to have the Vi, he's going to have a lot of these peel tools to be able to buy him space and buy him time to get things like the Kingslayer back up off of cooldown, and they're already really low in CD. This is when Silas starts to be able to spam abilities like it's Earth. So the task of being able to pick off Rookie feels impossible for OMG, but they have to find a way to do it if they want to way back into this game, Slayer.
And they're not going to be able to afford to go after him when he hijacks Moham's ultimate any longer. IG, though, with their advantage, mostly through Rookie, are looking to slow this game down because they're trying to force the lose-lose gamble for OMG here. You can see it coming, Quax. We're now only a minute out from a Chemtech Soul onto a Silas Gwen, or giving over Baron to IG. Tough spot for rookie jungler Rio to make a decision here where OMG can go on the map.
And look at the vision line that IG have established. Yeah, these two wards are going to do such a good job at being able to police where OMG can actually walk. You can see Moham will clear a little bit of it out, but it just feels like IG owned this part of the map. So actually being able to contest around this river, IG, they're going to let you. If you go toward this river, it's because they allowed it. If they really want to stop you, they definitely have the tools, the vision, and the power spikes to do so.
You've got nearly 4 items on Photic, all damage-oriented. The GA is completed here for Jwei as well, so he can throw a lot more caution in the wind. And like you mentioned, our observers showed it. It is a dark, dark bot-side river for OMG, and at some point they're going to have to walk into it with somebody. They're trying to send Starry in to do some poke, not going to find anything there. Haichao's worried about walking in from near his tier 2 level turret. IG, whenever they want after this mid wave, expect them to rotate back into that river. and force OMG into their waiting arms. Moham looks for headbutt pulverize. Rio's getting engaged there on the way, but he has the GA. He's got a Corki with a ton of damage behind it. Rio down to about 33% HP as Starry having a flash away from Rookie, who's looking for engage with the Crescent Guard up, trying to hang in the middle of everybody, gets headbutted towards Starry, knocked up by Hery. Rookie goes into the stage slow. The hero's entrance comes through for Haichao. Rookie, can he get himself out? No! Starry finds that kill, and now Hery is set wild and reaping the kills that the team has set up here. Photic will find the trade on to Haichao. Soboro forces the GA out of Rio. Jwei comes back up as well, but it's OMG with numbers, but their health bars are much more severely depleted. Starry hits another big piercing arrow there onto Jwei, and now it's all chaos on the Rift. How does anybody find time to set up for a Chemtech Soul Drake or a Baron?
And look, Rio, he's trying to heal up as much as possible, but Jwei got to eat some of the honey fruits empowered by the code!
Oh, but Rio! His caution thrown to the wind, and it's going to punish him. It's Hery that finds the kill onto Photic in the background as well. Starry finds the trade back onto Soboro, and now it's only Jwei left up, but he cannot complete any of these kills. OMG find the picks they need to stall this game out if they can get this Chemtech Drake down. But even this take feels risky with some of these death timers up for IG.
Yeah, Rookie's up in a couple of seconds. He has teleport. Not to mention, the Nico is walking. There's an empowered blast.
They're going in.
They're going to go. Hit it! Hit it! Hit it!
Oh, who can get it? Oh, there it is. Starry secures with a piercing arrow over the wall. There's no Chemtech Soul for IG, but they are going to TP in Rookie and find these kills off the back end. Starry will go down. Rookie picks up that kill, and they'll hunt down Moham to end this really long play here. IG find the kills. Now can they turn their attention to the Purple Worm?
Holy crap, Slayer, what a banger fight in the late game here. We thought IG were going to win this game clinically, but Rookie makes a critical mistake. He gets caught out, and OMG are able to get the Dragon barely claimed by Starry, but the Baron is up. All the members of IG have respawned, and they are moving right toward the top side of this map. I think with a 2v5, they should be able to get this objective. No harm, no foul.
Rio's in the area, but Haichao's pushing a mid-wave. Yep, OMG are going to raise the white flag and give over this Baron to IG. So immediate gold influx, immediate pushing power, but again, OMG not giving up this Chemtech Soul might be a bigger win than it seems.
Yeah. And I'm really wondering what they can actually do with this Baron. You've knocked down all of those tier 1s. Only the mid lane remains. So I would imagine that is likely going to be a goner in these next couple of minutes. But looking at this fight, I mean, it looks really bad for OMG initially. Rio gets taken down to half. You don't want to be burning this Guardian Angel without trying to trade something in return, right? But crucially, Moham, the knock-up, he gets Rookie into the whole team, and they all turn their attention to him. The moment the Silas falls, it's a lot easier for them to actually walk forward. The only big issue still remains Soboro, who on this Gwen is continuing to scale up. So it's not just the threat of the Silas anymore, it's the threat of that top laner, it's the threat of Soboro. And OMG, they barely made that fight work with just one threat being dealt with. How are they going to be able to fare when two of them are knocking right toward their backline?
Rookie's still looking for more of these engages. He feels so comfortable. Level 18, holding on to the Unbreakable Will, still just dashing forward. But setting up IG for a big push on this bot side. That is a fat wave coming in through the bot lane after the tier 2 has already been taken down. They've got the 4-1 split set up with Soboro in the mid lane. IG are scaled up. They should feel a lot more comfortable in this game state, but OMG, they feel comfortable playing from behind post 30 minutes, Quax. That's how they found some of their biggest wins so far this tournament.
And Starry's wave clear. The range, particularly on those piercing arrows, going to come in clutch for dealing with the Baron empowered cannon minions that IG, like you said, sent after that turret on the bot lane. So OMG have the wave clear. IG, though, even with that Alistar Unbreakable Will, don't want to try diving these turrets. I think after that last fight, they understand that OMG can actually fight back. You can't be walking up to them disrespectfully, so they're not going to chance it. They're not going to throw it away. I think what they're going to do is instead, for the next 2 or so minutes, still use this Baron buff, push out all of these waves, set up even better around the Dragon, and try to secure that soul for certain this time.
While it is a 4K gold lead, it is a bit deceitful. You know, having 1.7 advantage in the support really is marginal compared to where else you could have it. It's Soboro that has to do this heavy lifting, as Rio's going to look for a pick there on Jwei. That's the hero's entrance out of Haichao as well. IG do a good job forcing out some of these key ultimates away from OMG as they really want to save this top lane tier 2, but at the end of the day, it will fall like the rest of the tier 2 turrets. More gold over to IG.
And Rookie, not even pushing up the wave himself, he's just standing in its vicinity to give the buff and force OMG to divide themselves, clear out all of these minions, and it does make it easier to maybe try and pick them off on rotation, but they're not going to do that. Instead, they're going to look for a reset. They're going to look to spend that cash from some of these turrets that have fallen over the last couple of minutes, and with these item advantages, will look a lot more poised to take control of this bot side river and this dragon coming up in about 45 seconds. But OMG, you can see that they've taken advantage of those resets. They've walked up a little far in the mid lane, and you know they have to try and fight this. It really is going to be basically an impossible game if you give Chemtech over to a top side like this.
Still feels so tough for me to see OMG winning out here. Looking at the solo lanes just alone, the items they've completed, we've got both these AP threats with death caps completed. This Gwen is going to be able to rip through all of that MR built up front line. It is once again going to be OMG tasked with creative team fighting to find themselves this Game 1 win, as our observers once again show how dark that bottom river is. It's back to the same exact spot we were in just a couple minutes ago, Quax.
Soboro's isolated. He's looking for a flank on this Gwen, but he steps out of the bush. OMG know he's there, and it's going to be Rookie with the teleport just trying to zone them off. He doesn't have the shield either, so it's not like it's going to make him any tankier. OMG, they have to try and fight this.
Decent chunk there from Hery, who is level 20 on this Mbessa, definitely willing to brawl just as much as Soboro is. OMG are going to break down the front door, try and work their way into this river, as Jwei has called the dragon out from his slumber. Get another look at how dark this pit is for OMG. Rio wants vision on this dragon. We'll finally get it and sees it's pretty healthy, so don't have to rush.
Rio goes in.
Wants to go after Jwei instead. He has his Guardian Angel. Both of these jugglers hold on to their Guardian Angels as Rookie and Hery are going blow for blow, but Moham is going to get caught out on the top side. Photic finds that first kill. Both jugglers going to drop into the GA. Rio surviving long enough. He still hasn't dropped to the GA just yet. Finally will go in as Hery goes after the backline, but the knockups stack up and Photic flashes away from Hery to survive, and Rookie looks for the turn. Flash forward from Jwei. Rio goes down. OMG out of the pit. Invictus Gaming put a stranglehold on Game 1 with a Chemtech Soul secure.
And OMG just go too far. It's Moham initially getting picked off because he's isolated from the team. And then Hery is trying to back up Rio, but he finds himself in the middle of everybody from Invictus Gaming. They lose 2 members. They can't contest the dragon. Soul comes up for IG, and it feels like this game is starting to etch on impossible for a comeback Slayer.
Yeah, you never really want to be fighting on like 3 layers, and that's exactly what that OMG fight felt like. IG, again, definitely have struggled mightily this season and against NIP, but you always want to back the ability of players like Rookie, like Jwei, in such huge spots of a game to know how to play the fight out correctly and bring home a win. And IG on the precipice of just finding their 2nd win of the Knights Road tournament, if they can close things out with this 8K gold lead and now a Baron that they can try and secure.
Yeah, they should be able to just go for this on spawn, frankly. They're so far ahead of the game. They've got the soul. Soboro, as well, is so scaled up. This Gwen, we haven't had a lot of opportunity to talk about it in the damage dealing department, but it has been a huge factor in being able to stay healthy and allowing IG to go for some of these prolonged fights, now even further pushed by that Chemtech Soul. So IG, you're not going to outlast these guys. Now they pick up the Baron. They've got the keys to the kingdom. Let's see if they can bring it down. OMG, they're going to have to play some mighty base defense here as the 4-1 is once again being initiated by them. They really like this split, but OMG, you can see grouping up, seeing if they can maybe find some kind of a pick onto Soboro.
Just still feels so tough, Quax. Like, we already talked about how difficult it is to kill off Rookie, how difficult it can be to get rid of Soboro, and now this Chemtech Soul makes those blinking health bar fights even more in IG's favor. But as you mentioned with a Corki, a melee mid, sieging does not work that well at all. So it does feel like IG are going to have to win a fight here if they want to finally break OMG's base open.
Those empowered cannon minions cannot siege forever. The Baron still, though, has 2 minutes, so that's ample time to at least break open this mid and top lane. If they can do that and get a pick, then hang on,
Rio! He's found Photic into the Hery pull execution. Down goes the IG80 carry. It's Rio again, finding angles to fights out of nowhere. And now Jwei goes to
Jwei's alone.
A good flash from Starry. Jwei's too far forward, and he's gonna die under the turret. Starry picks up another kill. We're back to OMG, defying the odds in the late game once again.
It buys them a little bit of time. They're going to be able to clear out these waves. I don't think that IG are going to be able to return to this position on the map again where they're knocking at some of these objectives in the base of OMG. Just 3 members alive. They don't want to chance it. So Baron buff completely nullified at this point. Huge picks by OMG, and it will allow them to get some gold back. I don't think it puts them in a winning position. They're still almost 7,000 gold down Slayer, but it does give them an opportunity. They're just barreling down mid lane. They are not afraid. They're trying to get as much gold as they possibly can in this short time frame.
This play-in tournament has been marked by unimaginable comebacks already in so many of our series. And Quax, you know that's got to be in the back of the mind of both of our teams, not just because they've been viewing the tournament. Both these teams have lived on either side of pretty huge comebacks already in this series. Got to make sure to take stock of this as this game goes on, because at this point, we're 2 minutes away from an Elder, and one fight with the Death Timers will win you the game. But let's look back at Rio's awesome pick here on the Photic.
And Rio, it finally comes up heads. I feel like so many times he's looked for these engages, and they have not been able to manifest into an actual fight win for OMG, but it finally does the trick. And again, I'll say it, better late than never. Jwei goes in, he falls as well. It's 2 picks for OMG, and like we said, a lot of time, space, and gold given over to OMG. Elder in about 1.5 minutes. Looking across the board right now, it's a lot of flashes that shouldn't be up for OMG, particularly Starry, not going to have that summoner. And that could mean IG walk into this fight with an advantage, not just in the gold, but in being able to find easy access to these picks if the OMG immobile members end up mispositioning.
Quack, such an underrated difference maker in this game for IG has really been the vision game, because it has made OMG so much more hesitant to find these angles and walk into this treacherous bot side of the map. I mean, look at it again. They have no wards outside that one Phalite outside of their base. How can they ever work their way towards the Elder Pit?
That is a great question, and I feel like they're just going to have to send it. Moham is going to have to be leading the charge like he has been a majority of this game. It has been mostly to no avail as he's been dying alone, afraid, and cold. But here, he might try and warm up this first match, as this is only the first match, and it's already going to come down to potentially an Elder fight here, Slayer.
Rio's getting chunked out by Photic. Both of our top laners are mid lane right now. Jwei's looking for the Bomb Blossom. Finds it onto 2.
You're alone, my friend.
On the crescent guard, but Jwei's far too forward. Can Starry find the damage? No, he's trapped, and he's got Soboro right on top of him. Goes to the GS. Haichao hits the heroic entrance. Jwei does not die. Rio can't find that kill, and a huge needlework comes through for Soboro to cut OMG from their legs under. Just like that, IG blow up the fight and shut down any worries of a comeback. OMG tried what they did to EDG last series, but it won't crack against Invictus Gaming. They'll hold strong and take a 1-0 series lead.
OMG thought they might have had the angle, but Jwei with the flank opens up the game, and IG start this series off with a win.
Quax. You know what? It's an IG win, but if we've learned anything, this series is going to be a banger.
They won the first game against NIP too. So
that's also true.
It's like we say, consistency is key. Can they keep up this energy across the best of 5 Slayer and take themselves over the finish line? This is an endurance test for the team. We've seen them get 1-game wins off of multiple squads in Ascend, but it has been inconsistent for them to be able to close out those series. They're going to have to do that here against OMG, but overall, I would say pretty good game from them. They did drop the ball a little bit by over-aggressing on that top side and giving OMG a way back into this match, but they quickly shut it out with a beautiful flank from Jwei.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talked about, right? What can get IG back on track. We said, let's first of all, from draft, let's get Jwei onto a hard CC playmaker. Nico fits that bill. And, you know, for your spells of confusion, there was nothing confusing about that angle from Jwei, and there was nothing confusing about what the rest of IG had to do to close out that final fight that I'm sure we'll get a look at here once those highlights roll.
And frankly, I think for the side of OMG, it was just the lack of proactivity in the early game, right? We were expecting Rio to make these aggressive plays, to look onto the Vi before Vi had cease and desist, that tool that really made her that big playmaker for Invictus Gaming. And then especially once you have Haichao hitting level 6, you should be looking for every angle to be aggressive, looking for every angle to be bloodthirsty. But Rio never really found those opportunities, never got the ball rolling for OMG, allowed Invictus Gaming to scale. And I feel like Soboro was a big benefactor of that, but the biggest person that thrived off of that inactivity from OMG was definitely Rookie. On top of having the Silas and the Alistar, which he was able to steal that ultimate every time it actually mattered, he got a lot of kills, got a lot of scaling, was able to get that Roa very early, and took over this game in mid. So big game from him specifically. I think a lot of people have been waiting for him to have these pop-off moments because he is one of the greatest players of all time. I think a lot of people would argue, and he certainly played like one of them in this game. Let's see, though, like IG, if he can keep up that energy.
Yeah, because they're definitely going to need it. Despite the fact IG get this win, we go 46 minutes where IG, you can see the gold graph. I mean, what is that? Outside it, once we got past 22-ish minutes, they had a sizable gold lead. They never surrender it, but those are some big bite marks out of the gold graph because what makes this OMG team so fun, they just do not quit. They could be down 1 million gold, and they would still look to try and find fights because that's just their new style now with Rio running the ship here for OMG.
Yeah, and for the sake of Rio, I feel like the game, like we said, Xin Zhao not really able to accomplish much in the early game, but it's also that Rio's typical style of looking for plays, looking for these small micro advantages where he can actually engage and give a window for his team to join up with him. A lot of those just didn't end up panning out. I feel like every time he went in, IG were prepared, their counterpunch was better, and in some cases, OMG weren't ready for the engage themselves. They weren't able to back up the Xin Zhao, and Rio ended up dying on really crummy timers that just kind of screwed over his team for the future. So I think in game 2, we need to see that be a little bit tighter coordinated if we want to tie up this series, because the attempt was there, and I saw what he was looking for. It just felt like it was mispositioned most of the time. And I think if he can fix that going forward, OMG can really play off of the strengths of their rookie jungler.
Yeah, and, you know, the comp didn't really suit this OMG style of, you know, playing huge in the late game as well, right? They just didn't have that big pop, that big burst with the fact that they have a Galio mid, they have a lethality, Varus. They were relying on Hery to do a lot of the heavy lifting by the time we got to the end of these games. Normally, the big flashy OMG wins we saw, it's like Starry on something like a Felios, right? We have Haichao playing, you know, the classic mid laners, maybe a LeBlanc, Ryze, these picks. As cool as some of these plays were for OMG later in the game, it just, you cannot compete with a Gwen, a Silas, and a full build Corki when you've got your champions on the other side.
Yeah, I feel like this definitely was a bit anti what OMG have found so much success on, which, like you said, it's really been leaning into their team fight style and 5v5ing, which I think has been a major advantage for them across all of their series in Group Nirvana. Even when they've looked bad, they still feel like they're cohesive and able to team fight, and this wasn't a comp that really leaned into that strength, like you said. They still made it competitive, which I think is a good mark for their ability to keep going in this series. They just need to draft a little bit better and a little bit more according to those 5v5s. And yeah, I am excited for game number 2, but this last fight, I mean, Jwei, this got me really worried because he was completely alone. You could see that he was being focused down by what was essentially 3 to 4 members, but God bless Chemtech Soul. If he did not have that buff, he would have died instantly, and that entire fight might have turned around.
And that fight sets up what we've been waiting for all game long as well. Soboro, level 20 Gwen, like 4.5 item Gwen. Yeah. Just needs to get one fully stacked Q off and burns everybody within that radius. So Soboro, really a player that a lot of people have been very critical of. One of the, you know, percent players under the most scrutiny. shows up in that big fight, and those are the fights that really matter. IG on a 1-0 lead in our series, and player of the game, Quax. I mean, it's got to go to the man in the mid lane, right?
Rookie, yeah, I agree with you. But more to your Soboro point, I mean, this is a player who I think has suffered the most from Invisible Gaming. I think the symptoms have really shown over the course of the regular season for him, because there hasn't been a lot to say about Soboro. This is a rookie that came in, and we haven't really been able to touch on him because he's really just been the guy who, you know, put him on Sion, put him on Cassante, and let him be on tank duty. And I feel like that's no fun, especially when you've got an LCKCL rookie coming in. You want to see this guy pop off. And so this was a good game for him to finally pop off. He inoculated himself. He's not a victim of Invisible Gaming this time, and neither is Rookie, as he is going to be player of the game, 6-1-9 on the Silas. Very well deserved.
Punishing that Alistar pick from Moham and running wild into a melee first comp. Players of rookie caliber, one you called Quax, an LPL legend, will not let that one pass and punishes OMG. IG grabbed just their second game win of the Knights Road tournament, thanks to that rookie MVP. But you want to know who the MVPs are of our LPL English broadcast at home, folks? It's our coffee supporters, and they're a big part of what we do here at LPL English. If you would like to support LPL English, consider becoming a coffee member. Coffee is the best way to support the LPL English project, since the vast majority of your contributions will go directly into the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent like myself and Quax, and the many content creators we have behind the scenes. Subscribe to our coffee. It is linked in the chat below to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. I am going to give all you